Anime arena fighters. I'm sure you've played a couple, or at least one. Differing from the classic 2D fighting game, arena fighting games utilize the third dimension to give the player a larger space to fight and implement a more dynamic and immersive experience. Regarding any kind of fighting game, the anime arena fighter is amongst the most popular, but not the most popular. Why is that? You have all these cool and unique characters with awesome abilities and characteristics. It should be a smash hit every single time one is pumped out. But every time an anime arena fighting game is published, it always seems to either flop completely or just fade away after maybe 1 week of success. 2D fighting games almost always keep a cult fan base after their relative peak during launch. For example, people still to this day play Dragon Ball FighterZ even after its launch in 2018, and the release of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, which I will be talking about. If you were to name a popular shonen anime right now, I guarantee you that that anime has an arena fighting game. My Hero Academia, Naruto, Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, One Punch Man, the list goes on. So why am I making this video? Well, if for some reason you weren't aware, Bleach, the anime by Tite Kubo and the manga, is getting a 3D anime arena fighting game this year, and although I am a massive Bleach fan, I would also just like to witness an anime arena fighting game actually succeed. An anime arena fighting game that gets the things that past games got so wrong, right. So, allow me to tell you the problem with anime arena fighting games, and how to fix it. I wish I could sit here and tell you that the problem with almost every arena fighting game was so unique and so difficult to grasp that the companies developing these games just still haven't been able to tackle it properly. Unfortunately, that is not the case. The problem with almost every single anime arena fighting game is almost so simple that it makes even playing the games a little insulting. To begin, let's look at some examples. First, let's look at the Naruto Ninja Storm series, arguably the most beloved and popular anime arena fighting series to date. The Storm series has been around for a very long time, specifically since as early as 2008 with the first release on the PlayStation 3. The most recent release was in 2023 with Naruto x Boruto Ultimate Ninja Storm. So, a company that is producing and developing a series since 2008 has to know what they're doing, right? The franchise has been well regarded enough to warrant multiple sequels and remasters. This is partially true. The Storm franchise had the benefit of being one of the only anime arena fighting games during the time, with some competitors being the Tenkaichi series and others. It was also the first real step into high quality 3D for anime fighting games, and presented a step up in gameplay from the previous 2D style of fighting games. However, while the Ninja Storm series is wildly successful and widely regarded as the best of this subsection of fighting games, it falls victim to the same issues that other fighting games succumb to. Let's lump in the two most recent anime arena fighters with Ninja Storm here to elevate the discussion, these two games being Demon Slayer's The Hinokami Chronicles and Jujutsu Kaisen's Cursed Clash. All of these games are developed by Bandai Namco, and when putting all of the gameplay side by side, it becomes quite obvious as to what the similarities are. Every single one of these games suffers from the same thing: repetition. If you have played one of these games, you might understand what I mean by this, but for anyone who hasn't, let me explain further. Bandai has used the same formula for almost 2 decades now, that being the Ninja Storm formula. Because Ninja Storm performed as well as it did, Bandai has copy and pasted the same game numerous times, but with different anime. It is very apparent that they understand people will buy anything with their favorite anime attached to it, so instead of releasing fun and unique experiences for different shows, they just copy and paste what worked for them in 2008 and call it a day. Let's look at the combat flow of Ninja Storm. You have your basic attacks / combos, which are all bound to one button. Then, there's the charged attack, a little more difficult to land but more effective. Finally, you have a dash, throwable attacks for range, and a special transformation that makes your character invincible for a little bit. This was cool when it first released, but in the year 2025, this style of combat is disengaging and boring. In traditional fighting games, you feel rewarded for being able to learn the different button combinations for certain characters in order to learn their unique combos. But in these anime arena fighting games, almost every character feels the same to play. You mash a single button until the combination is over, and there is almost no satisfaction when landing a cool combo. There is practically no skill ceiling for these games. You enter the tutorial, learn the basic combination tied to the single button, play some story mode, jump into online PvP, and are already 90% accustomed to every single combo you can initiate on any character. So if these one-trick combos are boring to play with and against, what system does Bandai have to stop this from ruining their online PvP environment? Oh, a substitution jutsu and basic blocking. Holding and pressing a single button is the only way to stop or interrupt long drawn out combos that have no satisfaction behind them. The problem is apparent, but how do we fix this? The gameplay feels lazy and does not provoke high level decision making. There is almost no reason to learn how to get good at one of these games because that status is tied to learning how to use a single combination. Look at Jujutsu Kaisen Cursed Clash. The game had a fairly high level of excitement around it. Both the anime and the manga were in their peaks during its launch, but due to very lazy design and a bare bones combat system, it fell off a cliff in a matter of weeks. The people playing these games get excited because their favorite anime is getting a fighting game. Finally, they play the game expecting to have fun using their favorite characters, and realize that the game is boring and unthought-provoking after maybe a couple of hours. This has been the same loop for almost every single one of these games. I bet you didn't even know One Punch Man had a game in this 3D arena fighting style. Well, it does, and it is very bad. So how do we fix this issue? That's the question. If the root cause is repetition and player boredom, we can assume the game simply isn't fun to play for long periods of time. This is because, as I said in the previous segment, the controls are one-dimensional and do not feel rewarding to learn. They do not promote growth and trap the player in the same gameplay loops for almost every single match. Why do you think these anime arena fighters don't have professional fighting circuits at events such as EVO? It is the same loop of gameplay in every single match. With 2D fighters such as Tekken and Dragon Ball FighterZ, the controls feel very rewarding to learn, and the combinations are dynamic and exciting. The people who play at these events have clearly put in time and effort to master the game they are playing, and it is extremely exciting to watch. The arena fighters are not fun to play, and they are most definitely not fun to watch. The skill gap between these 2D and 3D fighters is so large that if the 3D arena fighting games had professional circuits, literally any dude that just plays them for fun could probably be competing in professional tournaments. So I believe the changes that need to be made are both simple and challenging. For the simple stuff, it's pretty obvious what I think needs to be changed based on my points earlier. The gameplay needs life thrust into it. This is where we talk about the upcoming Bleach game, Rebirth of Souls. There are two scenarios regarding the success of this game. Scenario number 1. The game follows the same 2008 Ultimate Ninja Storm formula and sees a thriving player base for 1 week to 1 month until it ultimately falls victim to the anime arena fighting game curse of repetition. Or scenario number 2. Bandai finally strays away from the same formula they've been copying since 2008 and implements a fun and unique battle system that rewards player skill and motivates players to get good at the game. They simply cannot keep relying on the show to carry the game's lifespan. The gameplay must be on par with the hype of the show to see a lasting player base over a longer period. The usage of the 3D space has never been fully realized because Bandai has refused to stray away from what worked for them in 2008. The proper usage of a 3D space can allow for an in-depth and dynamic combo system that utilizes the environment to its advantage, something Sparking Zero does pretty well. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero has destructive environments and interactable environments in general. The dynamic use of the camera in the 3D world allows for cool combo potential and awesome set pieces that reacts to the player's inputs. Another thing Dragon Ball Sparking Zero does well is its full usage of the controller mapping to enlist tons of different moves to different buttons. Instead of one single button being the end-all be-all for any combo potential, there is reward for learning how to chain the other attacks into the basic combo. However, Sparking Zero still does not have this completely down. The game can be a little janky and odd to play around with, especially when playing as some of the giant characters. For the upcoming Bleach game, I only want to see 2 things. Number 1, a fully unique, mapped button system that implements practice and skill to fully grasp it. And number 2, a balanced environment that rewards players for being good at the game, but not being good because of a single move they can just mash. I could talk about other issues such as the story modes in all these games, but no one is purchasing an online fighting game solely for the story mode featured in it, so I don't see it as necessary to speak about. I will be buying Rebirth of Souls when it comes out, and when the game comes out, I'm going to give it a week of gameplay before making the follow-up to this video. After seeing the absolute horror that Cursed Clash was, I can't say I'm head over heels excited, but I do have faith in this game being a level above the others. Tite Kubo, the mangaka behind Bleach, has always made it apparent that he takes every Bleach project seriously and tries to have a hand in any areas that he can. So, I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see. So that's it. That's all I have to say. If you enjoyed watching this video, maybe check out my other stuff. I think it's pretty good. And stay tuned for the next video because it's gonna be a great one. Thank you so much for watching.